everyone, welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Well, unfortunately, it's another one of those days. I've scheduled to review something else, but it's not what we're looking at today. The original comic I was going to review, Marvel's Superhero Island Adventures, is based around Universal Studios' Islands of Adventure theme park in Orlando, Florida. It contains various attractions and islands based on properties they owned or had licenses to, one of which was Marvel, thus creating the Marvel Superhero Island, with various rides and locales meant to evoke Marvel superheroes and a general comic book environment. And the comic itself is really not all that bad. It's got 3 stories from the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, and Spider-Man, and they're all short and enjoyable superhero romps. If it fails at anything, it's in promoting the theme park that it's named after. Also, there's a bit where Johnny Storm tries to straight up murder Dr. Doom, but hey, nothing's perfect. The comic was a donation to me by Joe Convoy of the Electric Information Show podcast, which you can check out here. Instead, we're going to once again look at something related to an older review. My 7th episode, where I reviewed US-1 #1, is quite possibly a perfect review. It's not too long, it's not too short, pretty much every joke works, and it has highly memorable material. The comic, based on a toy license for slot car racing, is the story of Ulysses Solomon Archer. Get it? USA! Subtlety is for losers. An intelligent young man who wants to become a trucker like his parents and his brother before him, but everyone says he's too smart and talented to become one. Way to insult the American trucking industry, Marvel! Okay, I'm being a little facetious in that regard. They actually treat the job with a lot of reverence, but the comic takes a turn to downright goofiness. Ulysses' brother gets killed by a truck-driving supervillain known as the Highwayman, and the ensuing accident leaves him with a metal plate in his head that allows him to pick up CB radio transmissions.
Breaker, breaker, we've got Galactus, Devourer of Worlds coming up on the big road. Might want to hammer down past the double nickel. We'll shake the bushes and give the Fantastic Four a chance to have their knuckle buster with him. Come on back.
In addition, he soups up his rig into a high-tech weapon with oil slicks, tire-shredding shrapnel bombs, a smokescreen, an eject seat, and a radar and weather satellite. The best part of this thing has got to be the remote control hidden inside a silver dollar. I'm still not sure how the hell that one works, and where the heck they got the money to pay for all this. Looking back on it, US-1 is stupid, but it's an incredibly fun kind of stupid. This isn't something like Cry for Justice that's just badly written and that borders on offensive to me personally. US-1 is dumb 80s fun. Surprisingly, US-1 has actually made something of a comeback in recent years. They changed the name to US Ace for copyright reasons, of course, but he appeared in an issue of Deadpool Team Up as well as in a remake of the Infinity Gauntlet event comic, where his truck now has the ability to go into space. And you better friggin' believe that at some point we're gonna find out how the hell that happened. In the meantime, though, let's check in on what happened directly after the last issue and dig into US-1 #2.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Now this is a damn good cover. While the logo is still unnecessarily huge, it's pretty much pushed into the background so we can have a focus on this slightly psychedelic cover. We have the awesome symbolism of the US-1 road sign crumpled, a new villain presented front and center, though admittedly with kind of a lame costume, and her holding her weapon, some kind of high-tech whip. The whip curls around to another panel and collides right where US-1 is sitting, leading into repeated panels of his eyes going all trippy. This is just a great cover, symbolic, eye-catching, and enjoyable.
Enter the Malevolent Midnight!
Yes, this Midnight is malevolent. Fortunately, though, it's midnight on the other side of the world. We open at the pit stop where US-1 calls his home.
On the average night, a powerful semi pulling into the parking lot at Shortstop Truckers Rest would be the most common of occurrences. However, tonight was Volkswagen Beetle night, so it was kind of weird.
Some guy walks in and just outright states,
I heard a lot of bad truckers hung out here, but I say I'm the baddest trucker of them all. Are you a bad enough trucker to save the president?
Yeah, I know I've used that joke a lot lately, but the comics just keep giving me that opportunity.
Lando Calrissian, though, is not amused. You hear that jive, dude, Curly?
Poor guy. Clearly he's time displaced from the 1970s. I'm surprised he didn't call the guy a turkey.
And I think someone ought to show him just how wrong he is.
So, is this a common thing? Truckers argue it out in pit stops over who's more badass? Seems like that's an easy way to get your ass arrested, and we all know how truckers don't want any smokies on their mud flaps. We get a 2-page spread of a bar fight that erupts. I guess these guys really took it personally when this Bluto asshole came in saying he was the baddest of them all. One concerned trucker has this amusing revelation. Why is it whenever a fight breaks out in a place like this, everyone fights everyone else instead of just the guy who started it? Come on, where's your sense of high drum oof? The guy he was talking to gets punched in the stomach, causing something to fling out of his crotch if the motion lines are to be believed. Apparently this poor man was keeping Hot Pockets in his pants, and when he's punched in the stomach, he must thrust his hips in such a manner as to eject one of them. Elsewhere in the brawl, we see that US-1's adoptive mother, Wide Load Annie, is throwing plates at some of the fighters. Play nice now, boys, and remember the management of Shortstop will not be responsible for personal property. Except for your own, since you're smashing your own plates and will have to replace them. US-1 himself returns to Shortstop and sees a guy get flung through the window.
Oh no, not again! Oh great, another argument over whether Sylvester Stallone in the movie Over the Top is named Hawk or Hawks. It's like the 3rd time this week.
When he enters, the Bluto guy is triumphant over a room full of unconscious truckers. Watch out, US! This bozo is tough, see? And she smashes a wrench over his head, which he is completely unfazed by. I don't know what's more ridiculous, that this guy really is so damn tough that he can resist a wrench to the head, or the fact that Annie's first idea on how to demonstrate his strength is by trying to give him a concussion. The Bluto guy says she told him that he'd be there, though of course Ulysses doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway, fight scene. He punches Bluto, but hurts his hand in the process. Yep, our superhero, ladies and gentlemen. This is why his superpower is driving a truck. Despite that, he still keeps on trying to fight, no doubt breaking his hand in the process, but of course the big guy just knocks him back anyway. Since I obviously can't match him in the muscle department, I'll just have to beat him in the furniture department. Oh, right, He throws some so bad it's good furniture puns at him, which even he admits were lame, and eventually the guy tries to bonk him on the head. Of course, since US-1 has a metal plate in his head, it instead hurts the guy's hand. We'll ignore that his spinal column is still made of everyday bones, so this should still hurt like hell for US-1, but whatever. And so we see US-1's greatest fighting tactic.
Headbutt. Headbutt.
Yep, he just headbutts the guy twice and knocks him down. Little does he know I've had most of my skull replaced with a metal alloy plate. A plate strong enough to let me do this! You do realize that the surgeons designed it to protect your brain, right? Not to be used as a battering ram? The big guy staggers out while everyone else congratulates US-1 on how thick-headed he is. As he stumbles past the row of parked trucks, the shadowy figure which keenly watched US's arrival lashes out with a bizarre whip-like weapon. And by whip-like, I mean a whip.
A weapon which does not strike the flesh, but sends a stinging energy jolt deep within the victim's brain. He snaps to attention, eyes glazed, and... wow, Jersey Shore is a good show.
The woman holding the whip, not sure why they're bothering to keep it a mystery when we saw her full on the cover and whatnot, asks him what he learned about Ulysses Solomon Archer. The man known as US. Okay, they kind of called him that in the first issue too, but I find that kind of silly. It's right there on the cover that his name is US-1, not US. If they really wanted to go with that, why not call him USA, considering that's his full initials? Anyway, the big guy is of course no help whatsoever.
He's a tough little guy. He beat me and nobody ever done that before. Yeah, that's critical information. He beat me up.
I don't think this guy is going to be the great henchman you were hoping him to be, Midnight. Speaking of, we have the reveal of Midnight and her Hypno Whip. And for some reason, I feel like posing like this as I announce that. One wonders why she's a supervillain, and why she calls herself Midnight, and where she got a Hypno Whip, and why Midnight equals purple, but those are questions that are never answered in this issue. Instead, she instructs the guy to leave and forget he ever saw her, and she starts changing. And considering how low-cut her jacket is, that means she's probably topless now while hanging around a rest stop for truckers. Back inside, everyone's helping clean up the brawl, and it's time for some story setup. In this case, it's throwing out two possibilities about who Midnight actually is. The first is a blonde-haired waitress named Mary. Ulysses says he wondered where she had gone off to. Why, US, I'm flattered that you missed me. I got my hair mussed in that little brawl, and I stepped out back to fix it.
Oh, so you're not a supervillain? Oh, okay. I was just hoping we would have, like, the Catwoman and Batman thing going, but that's fine.
Next red herring is Taryn O'Connell, a flirtatious red-headed Irish woman. Oh, and it turns out Mary is Irish too, as Taryn's dialogue indicates. Ah, Mary, me girl, still hauling dishes for a living, I see. Surely a fellow Irish woman could do something more productive? Well, I was going to work at this place called the Black Canary, but then this other blonde Irish woman took the job. I hear she nearly killed everybody there with her secret Irish ninja powers. She then flat out goes up to Ulysses and starts Frenching him. Taryn, you've got to stop doing that. People are liable to get the wrong idea about us. Dude. Hot redhead in skimpy clothing who also happens to be a trucker, so she lives and loves the way of life you lead, and she wants to ride your big rig. Stop being an idiot! We get some character development for Taryn, that she wants to prove that she can be as good as any male trucker, and that she recently accomplished a difficult run. Now it's your turn to lighten up, Lassie. That's Lassie as in D-O-G. Why, You're jealous because when I'm around, US ignores you! And before anyone thinks that I'm losing my feminism street cred here, I will point out that we have two named female characters who are talking to each other, but they're only talking about a man. Yep, we'll be progressive with the female trucker, but she exists only to boost up headband head injury here. Speaking of, Ulysses says he needs to finish the run he was on and take some gum for the road.
Plot point is go!
And to further the mystery of which of the two could be Midnight, both the women decide they need to head off as well. Later, US-1 drives his truck, but Midnight chases after him on a purple motorcycle. And as one is likely to do while driving for long stretches of time, US-1's thoughts start to drift.
Wonder what kept Abby. She's some gal, according to Driscoll.
Actually, he thinks back to the accident from the first issue.
Still not sure if Jeff survived or not. There was no trace of his body.
Probably because the truck smashed and exploded. Plus, the highwayman employed a whole bunch of demons and whatnot too, so maybe they dragged off the body.
It was a miracle I lived through it. The doctors had to replace most of my skull with an experimental alloy. And there were no side effects whatsoever. My brain cow is the winning diet.
And then he gets possessed by a demon in this panel, judging by the artwork on his face here.
Boy, would they be surprised to learn that I can actually pick up Citizens Band shortwave transmissions on it. And what's even crazier is that I can tune in specific channels by touching different fillings with my tongue.
Cheryl? A piece of the world is missing.
I love this song! Subsequently, he picks up something. Ow! I'm picking up something now, and it hurts! Oh god! Talk radio! Why won't it stop? US-1 looks out the window and sees the Hypno Whip cracking at his side view mirror. Every time she cracks that whip, my CB skull feels like there's a jolt of lightning going through it. I love how some heroes just have villains specifically designed to screw with them. US-1's first supervillain was a demonic trucker. This time it's a woman with a weapon that messes with his metal skull. And thus the chase begins, with Ulysses trying to speed away from her. We finally get to see some of the weapon systems of the truck, but I should point out that Midnight is on a motorcycle, and he's in a massive truck, so it wouldn't be too hard to swerve to the side and just run her off the road. Anyway, first comes an oil slick, but even the motorcycle is designed to outmaneuver him, since it has jets that allow her to leap over the oil slicks. Next up, he releases sharp, biodegradable star spikes. Oh goody, they're biodegradable! Which means they'll stop being a traffic hazard to vehicles in about, at least a decade if you're lucky. She evades by literally riding on the rails, putting her bike on top of a narrow guardrail. He blasts some fog in her direction, and that forces her off. Why would she attack me? Unless she's an agent of the Highwayman. He must have heard I was trying to track him down and sent her after me. Or the Highwayman could have just laid low, since he was all mysterious and crap in the last issue, and it's not like US-1's gonna find him just by doing freight runs. Anyway, Midnight activates her Hypno Whip and manages to take control of his mind, forcing him to stop the truck. She explains who she is and that the Highwayman did indeed hire her and she's in it for the money. She then takes a moment to kiss him, because of course all the ladies go for the manly Aryan good looks of US-1. He asks if he can have a stick of gum before he dies, and she allows it. She then gets him started on the road again and instructs him to drive into a rock wall.
Riding with Death, we'll be right back. And we're back.
But he swerves at the last second and runs her off. He tells the shocked villainess to go back and tell the Highwayman to come after him himself next time. She drives off, naturally US-1 not trying to take her to the cops or anything. As she leaves, he thinks about how he was lucky that she let him have the gum, since what he did was keep the metal foil wrapper on it. I'm pretty sure it's not actual metal, but I'm sure people will correct me on that. When the foil hit my fillings, it opened up all the receiving channels in my CB skull, overloading my head with every broadcast frequency on the airwaves. Ugh, I got a full blast of Howard Stern, light rock, hard rock, and NPR all at once. Thus, her whip's frequency was crowded out and he was freed. He remarks to himself that he should carry some gum with him at all times, just in case he ever runs into her again. And so our comic ends with him thinking if he played his cards right, he could turn it into a commercial endorsement. Foil your enemies with Wrigley's gum. Nah, they'd never buy it. What do you need an endorsement deal for? You're obviously already loaded, what with the millions you spent on the truck and the surgery. This comic is incredibly dumb, but man oh man is it enjoyable. I know it's weird hearing me say that nowadays, but you've got to understand, back when I did the first issue, I thought that this was the worst kind of thing I'd run into. Since then, I've seen Bimbo Warriors in the Future, the Surgeon General, China Cat, and Christabella. US-1 is more like brute force, so bad it's good kind of fun. And don't worry, this is not the last we'll see of our dramatically named trucker. We'll come back to him down the line as well. Next week, though, time to enter another dimension. Ulysses Solomon Archer, a man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic trucker. Ulysses Solomon Archer will be that trucker. Better than he was before. Better, radio-ier, truckier.